Just give me a second, guys. I'm setting things up. All right, we'll just give it a couple more minutes. Wait for a few more people to join in. Hello, everyone. Hey, Eddie. How's it going? I see lots of new faces and quite a few repeat. We'll just get started in about 1 more minute. Sounds good. I would love to. I have a question, right? Like, how many of you have actually read the guidelines? That PDF page or their web page? Has anybody read the document on the quality raters guidelines, the new E.E.A.T, or any material related to this besides a couple of blogs? A blog cannot cover so much in depth as some of the documents laid out by Google. So I want to quite understand some of the things. So most of us know honestly, right? Okay. It makes sense, right? Like, who wants to read this 20, 30 page of a document unless your life depends on it, kind of, right? And that totally makes sense. So after maybe this webinar, you might not need to go into this technical jargons and kind of understand what Google is trying to do and why they are trying to do it. So I'll break it down into really layman terms, and we'll kind of understand like why is Google doing some of the things that it's doing, and how are humans adapting. Like, so what is the counter argument between the human with all this AI capabilities now and Google trying to counter it, make sure that they have the quality, right? So there's a thought process that goes behind coming to a place where you have this core updates that do certain things. So we'll go and look at all of those things. And a second question I would love to understand is that Google has been giving some crazy amount of updates. Who have you seen drops? Have you seen improvements? Any like, would love to know. I know most of you have websites or managed websites for clients, and I want to know what sort of effect have you seen? Drops from some time now. Okay. I'm here for the profit. um, and I like, so yeah, don't be shy. Like, all my sites are improving, but read a ton of content, inconsistency, ups and downs. It's been downhill, dropped 1/3, right? So a lot of people have been affected by this. And since Google has been trying to do so many updates consistently, you can tell that it's been testing a lot of these things. And that's where this, quality raters guidelines and things come in as to how they actually grade your content and align that to the right expectations of someone having a very satisfied experience after reading it. So this is the battle that we've been having for a while with Google, and every time the challenge is different. So it's literally like playing chess, but it's endless, right? Like you move a step and the other person's gonna move a step, and then you have a break for that, and then they have a way to stop that. So it's a constant battle that happens. So understand, like, this core updates are probably even going to be more massive going forward, as they discover new and new logics to measure experience, measure the E.E.A.T of your website, your content that you've been publishing, and the face behind it. So let's get started. I will do a quick slideshow, and I'm not going to show any product this is not about the product. This is how about you approach to content to your website in order to make sure that you don't get this downhills or you don't get drops or inconsistencies, right? You can consistently see improvements across your website. So we'll look at all of that. And hopefully these are very quick things that you can implement. Some are longer, and that's okay. You can work towards it. But some are very straightforward, and you can potentially do this like in the next couple of days if you had seen some drops. So okay, let me start the slide share. Okay, and I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, hopefully everybody can see my screen. If you see, just say yay. Sounds good. All right. So some of you might not know who I am. My name is Pankil Shah. I'm one of the co-founders with Outranking. I'm currently leading Outranking. And this presentation is all about E.E.A.T. And hopefully we're not going to go into so many difficult jargons that it makes it very difficult for you to understand. So, okay, let's go. A quick background about what Outranking is. Outranking is a content optimization, writing, and SEO strategy platform. And we specialize, our software helps you to perform on-page optimization. We have a GPT-4 powered research writing tool. Excuse me. Clustering and keyword prioritization features and internal linking. Okay, without much about outranking, let's get into this. And so E.E.A.T is essentially expertise, experience, authority, and you combine that into a trust signal. So a combination of these three things work hand in hand to help build trust. And this signal is associated with your website, the content that you publish, right, in different dimensions that tell Google how valuable your content is when someone performs the search query. How should they prioritize? Like, if they're prioritizing the content, does your content qualify to even be qualified as one of those sorting parameters, right? And so many of you might see that increasing amount of pages not indexed, right? Crawled but not indexed, discovered but not indexed. And the issue is that your content isn't really great. Like, it's not something that users will die for, that does not exist on the web in better forms or shape, that Google needs to prioritize and come index that's one of your pages. That's one of the issues. There are other issues as well. Google has a backlog, and it's just a genuine problem, and you can do certain tricks to improve that. But again, right, like, you've seen these problems happen more so now than they were happening before. So what did this like really entail, right? Like, so expertise is like, who's really writing this? Is there someone associated with this that Google can go and pinpoint, right? Like, experience. This, like, anybody can write about gym equipment. A person who just started going to gym yesterday can also write about gym equipment. And like, everybody can be a gym enthusiast, right? But if you show experience, and there are a multitude of ways to show experience, then that tells Google that this source is trustworthy. And we'll get to why all of these matters, and how this dialogue might have happened between a human overly optimistic about AI and Google. So that will be the very next thing. Then we have experience, then we have authority. How known are they, right? Like, how known is your website? Or how known are you, right, as a author, or maybe as a website that tells Google that, okay, there are other websites linking to you. There is essentially more to you about you on your website than, and there's information about you on other places as well. And that builds a connection that establishes authority, right? And all of these things together tells you that you're trustworthy. Your content is trustworthy. People should read what you're writing about. So how do they really quantify this, right? And but let's like, I mean, why the heck does Google even need E.E.A.T, right? Like they had all of these things. Now, why did they suddenly change it from E.E.A.T to E.E.A.T, right? Like, so let's have a logical reasoning behind E.E.A.T. Like if I was like if one side there was Google and one side there was a human who's trying to game the system, right? Then what would really happen, right? Like, say, human, we can produce content. Now we have AI, we can produce it like 10 times more. So Google's going to come and say that, okay, we got quality rated. So we have this different signals that can tell that, hey, you use like 80% of your content is stop words, right? Like it's like garbage. So we have this different parameters that we can set in place that kind of tells us that your content is good or bad, right? It's very simple. Google's been doing this for a while. Then the human said, okay, you know what? We just don't have spinners. We have amazing spinners. So we can produce good looking content. I'm not saying good content, but we can produce good looking content, right? And so Google is going to say, okay, but does it show experience, right? Because even if you can produce good looking content, sometimes adding to that experience can be a little difficult, right? Like if you are talking about hiking boots, if you've not really hiked, like a really tedious terrain in that shoes, it might be difficult. Even if you have tried with the different shoes, you still bring a little bit of experience and you can ride this. But if you're not someone who's done this, then showing experience is almost always going to be superficial, right? So now we have a different problem, or now Google has a different problem, because the human would say that, we can fake experiences as well. We could say that I've been to this place and I've seen this and I've done this, and all of these things very easily. For some, in minor topics, for some more tedious topics, there is no going around experience, and that can be easily spot with some of the topics, and I'll show you examples of that as well. But then we have this fake experience, right? Like people are writing content that so chat GPT or any AI tool can impersonate and say, things very confidently. That looks very good, looks like a real experience, but it's very superficial. So Google said, okay, all right, let me move this thing here. Okay, so now Google said, like, you know what, we'll look at your expertise and the face behind it. So okay, you can fake experiences, but that does your experience really tie into who you are? And is there a signal that Google can establish, right? So whether you are known entity, like, so whether you are someone who's training for gym, right? Whether you have a social following, or whether you have any signals associated with you that tells you that you are a gym enthusiast, or why you review these tools, and why you are why should they trust you on this, right? So Google said, all right, we have this one more thing that we'll put in, and we'll look at your expertise and the face behind it. So now you start seeing the pattern, right? Like a few people fall off in the very first conversation, the second a few more, a second a few more, and then Google is keeps refining this. And so now the human goes like, okay, anyone can add expertise on LinkedIn, blah, 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 and even build fake signals, right? So sure, you can do that. And you are going through all of these extent, right? Like look at the amount of gaming you want to do to get to this place, right? Like it's a significant effort to even get here. But anyway, let's say you got here. And then Google comes now and says that, we'll look at authority. We'll see how people link to you, what they say about you, how they, how will you fake all of those people, right? Like, so you can't just fake like an entire following. And even if like this, fraction of people who can, they'll fall short of many other things. So in this constant battle, what Google is really trying to do is it's trying to make sure that people don't game the system. Or as fewer of people are able to game the system as, for some competitive niche, forget it. If it's something like Halloween costumes in the month when there is a Halloween, and because someone was able to game the system, they could literally be scamming people of money, right? So Google has all of these things in place to logically reason out some pages and reason in some pages. And this improvement that they have been making has caused your drops. So now you can see that, where your content lies in, like where did you not put the effort in this entire chain of conversation that got you to the place where you are right now. And in many cases, it's just simple changes. In many cases, it's content optimization. It's not on-page optimization. Forget it, right? Like you've included the keywords and you've gone above and beyond, and you've used all of these tools to score your content. That's great. You need to do that. But there's something beyond that. And we'll see how you can quantify that in the next step. Okay, so in short, right, like let's sum it up. And if you were to sum up this entire conversation, you know that you have to demonstrate quality of your content. That is still not a brainer, right? Like, and there are many quality checkers out there, right? Like, or many parameters that Google has put in place to check quality. So make sure you do not compromise on quality of content. And let's say you've done the quality of content. And there'll still be a few more things that you can do over there. We'll go over that step. But quality is of primal importance. Like you shouldn't even do anything else if you're not going to produce quality content. Forget it. Like it's going to be increasingly harder and harder for niche websites to rank without having all of these factors put in. You have money to go after this, so likely you're legitimate, right? Like, so you are building efforts. Like, so effort is money. It doesn't have to be physical currency, but what I'm trying to say is that you have time and you have energy to go after some of these important things and do this yourself, or have someone do it for you, right? But you're spending that energy in maintaining your website and legitimately building the signals to strengthen your website. You have a face behind and reputation online. So if you are going to like literally create an avatar and go with it, sure, I'd say you can probably have some success, but I can't guarantee it. But if you have your face behind you, we all know that, if I have my face behind something, that I want to dedicatedly do that thing, right? So you're doing that, and you're not shying away from showing who you are, who's writing the content, and how you're associated with the content. Good people and websites won't just associate themselves with you. So in order to build authority, you are having to get backlinks, and you're going to have to do outreach, and people are going to have to naturally link to you. Or even reading good content, they should feel confident enough to link back to you. And they'll just not link back to anyone, right? Like you've seen so many PBN websites and they rank for a certain amount of time, but you can see the amount of backlink that they got together, it just dies, right? Like it dies eventually. And the reason being, nobody wants to link to bad content. So when you have this good websites linking to you, it definitely establishes authority, and not a lot of people are going to be able to do it who are going to try and do this at scale or trying to scam the system, right? There's only so much money you can spend on experiments, and not a sustainable business. Okay, so how do you achieve E.E.A.T, right? And there's this 4 components. We can look at so many things that Google has laid out in the paper, and trust me, like you are going to go nuts. And there are many things that in each of these 4 components that we're not going to go in super detail, and you can do the research on it yourself, right? But you will have the foundation to kind of understand what are some of those things that you can do quickly and what will require a little more time in order to gain back that trust and start seeing your rankings go up. Okay, so set up the basic. The very first thing, right? Like make a website a legitimate business or association. And I've seen like, many niche website owners, they might not have a registered business. And if not something that you are going to be selling and you're just going to be doing ads, but let's say you're a fitness enthusiast, right? Like you're a yoga trainer part-time, or you have some expertise that you have built over the period of time, you're doing consulting. If you're doing consulting, you have a legitimate business, right? Like regardless, you have an entity. But having an entity gives you plenty of options to get people to connected with you, right? Like you can have a state website list your website, your link, give you a link, right? Like coming from a GOV or a state or a state-based website, it gives you tons of authority. It passes on tons of authority, right? And so there are so many directory listings and things like that that you can link to very easily from and build this. So having an entity certainly helps, but I have seen that, like, I have a friend, right, like who's like very passionate about PostgreSQL. He keeps writing about that database and technologies around it, and he consistently ranks. Like, it doesn't have an entity, it's not even doing ads, right? But it consistently ranks very well. And it's not because he has an entity or anything like that, but there's true faith behind it, right? And his LinkedIn profile, where he works, and everything is super connected with it, right? So it's very easy to establish trust when something is just like genuine out the back, right? So what you can do is, if you are meeting some of these things, right, like have a contact us page. Even if you don't have an entity, right, you can have a contact us page. You can have an email. Why should they reach out to you, right? Like how can they connect with you? This could become combination of your author bio page, if you are the only person writing this niche website information connected with a contact us page, right? Like, but the point is to show the signals and have it as legitimate as possible. So author bio page, like, it's becoming increasingly important, and we'll see some of that as well, right? Like when you have an author who is an expert in a certain field, not only the content genuinely comes good, but the audience is able to connect naturally with it without so much optimization. And Google can build this links, right? Like Google knows a person. If they can connect your LinkedIn profile, they can connect all the other connections to your LinkedIn profile or to any other social profiles that you have, right? Like, so it can be branched out and it can be connected very easily with the amount of information that they have. It wouldn't even take as much time as a query takes on Google to build this connection. So it's important for us to make sure that Google keeps finding this information very easily, right? So I've even heard tricks about putting sitemap at the end of your footer, so Google can find every link. And not only it helps you index the pages, but it just tells Google that here, this is my information. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. But the point is having a bio page, author bio page, and trying to connect, make all of these things work together is super important. This wouldn't take much time for you to do. Okay, now, like, this is the quick example, right? Like, but this is a very elaborate example. I'm not saying that you need to have such an elaborate example if you have a business, but Unbounce really works, right? Like, and this contact us page shows tons of authority. They know exactly where their offices are, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't have to be so fancy or like a 10 office. You can just have one, or you can have none, or you can have a virtual office. But having information which is easily accessible about you, how they can, how someone on your website can connect with you, can greatly help. And then let's look at this, right? Like this author bio page of Lindsay from HubSpot. And she's written tons for HubSpot, and many of her articles rank, right? So you can see, like, this is very small. Anybody can do this. But only a genuine person would want to go and put their LinkedIn and Twitter profile so people can engage with her, right? So it's a very fine line. Like, it's not that difficult to do. It's just that, would you do it if you are not legitimate, right? Like, then you have to create this whole new following of fake things everywhere. So we're not gaming the system. What E.E.A.T is really encouraging is experts to write expert content, right? Like, I mean, not just anyone putting a faith and writing anything. And it's okay to acquire that expertise over the period of time while you keep writing about it. But this is super important now. And you can imagine, right? Like, so going back to this, like, you can imagine this, the space is getting so crowded. Like, if you just consider SEO space, right? Like, you consider just keyword research tools, and you would find hundreds and hundreds of keyword research tools out there. So everyone's trying to compete for the same kind of keyword. It's super competitive. How do you go and refine this and give priority to that one right person who has this enough trust, right? So like all of these is super important now. Okay, now let's come to the content. And this is my favorite piece, right? And we'll touch many of these things in next week's release that we're doing. We are doing a very extensive reshaping of optimization and how someone should approach the content. So this is going to be very vital next week, but it's important for us to understand that some of these things might be lacking already on your page. And it is important for you to self-assess and make those changes and see those rankings improve. And just take a step back. So in the drop that you've seen in the rankings, right, or fluctuations or things like that you've seen, you'd often see there's only two situations where one is your content still ranks in the first few pages of Google or the first 100 maybe, right? And the second time is your content just vanishes, like it's gone. It doesn't rank for any of the keywords it's used to rank, right? After the Google algorithm update. So in both of the situations, right, the first situation is where your content just dropped a few down notches, right? If you were at, let's say 1 or 2, you drop down to 3 or 4. Well, that's very easy to figure out. It's more than likely not your content, but it is more than likely something to do with backlinks or the page experience that you have, whether it's missing some of the information and things like that or not, right? Then you see like a few drop, like a few positions drop, right? Like 5, 6, 10, maybe 20 positions drop, or a little more than that. Then you know that it's not just the trust signals, it's your content as well. Because it must be lacking a certain amount of expertise, and it's our job to go and figure that out. So then I would look at that. If your content just goes away, then your content is crap, right? Like it was not supposed to be there and it's not there, so I would totally rewrite it. But if you've seen your content drop from just a few notches down, then go and improve your author bio. Go and improve the trust signals that you get. Go and improve some internal linkings, right? Go and improve the things that would show more trust than the pages which are ranking above you, right? And I am pretty sure you will be able to find, you'll be able to find certain examples of things that they're doing better than you could, right? And this almost always works. I'll even show you an example at the very end. Okay. So based on this consideration, right, like that there are certain things that you should be doing in your content from the very start, which is you have to write great content and you have to demonstrate like firsthand experience in the content. We'll look at some examples. On-page SEO is still important. You're still going to have to cover those terms, the common terms, do the keywords, insert the keywords wherever they are possible, blah, 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 right? Like that still has not changed. That is still going, like it's all algo-based. It's still going to help you rank. But originality and showing the first-hand experience is becoming more and more important as we go further. And this this Google updates evolve even further, right? So including unique concepts is going even like it's going beyond. Like I cannot tell you how many pages that we have like personally analyzed to kind of understand like why did it get a boost, right? Or why did it get demoted? And we always see that someone new coming in and just like taking up that spot is always driven by very, very, very good research. And we'll look at what kind of research I'm talking about. But very good research, they have sources which are not just repeated from pages to pages. It's super unique sources that are useful, and they're not shying away from connecting to those sources. And they have very unique images. So I'm talking about unique images, an image that is not repeated everywhere on the web, right? Like certainly not stock images, which are like super fabricated, things of that nature. Images, what I'm talking about is screenshots. Screenshots or images which are not indexed by Google or not seen by Google yet, right? So there are a few things that you can do. You can go to some social media sites and capture some screenshots, memes that people have shared over there. They are more than likely not indexed, right? Like Facebook, if you're writing about a gym equipment and you want to show a person doing, that equipment at home or something like that, you could go and find those kind of images from there, right? And then modify them a little bit. But they're still unique if you don't have the firsthand, uh, firsthand that product. You're not like firsthand applying that product in your day-to-day life. Then you can still do some of the tricks. You can go to YouTube, you can look at a video, you can take a screenshot of someone doing something on that video, right? Like those will still make it unique, but you need unique information that is valuable, right? And this is still going to be a great part of it. And I'm pretty sure every one of you right now is saying like, you know what, I'm doing this, but I'm not seeing this. So we'll look at it like okay, it's really not. What do you think? Sometimes keep writing great content, and this is still given, right? Like you have to write great content all the time. It's not a compromise. So let's look at this. We looked at, like, this is a very basic example, and you can repeat this yourself, right? Like you can start Googling some keywords that you've fallen behind and look at some of the patterns that I'm about to describe you over here, and start checking, right? Like comparing your content with some of the ones that has gotten a boost. You will more than likely see some of this thing that I'm about to pinpoint. So best hunting boots. The number one site that's ranking for it is Gear Junkie, and they took a spot recently. I don't know exact. I cannot find out the exact date, but they did get a boost, and some of these competitors got demoted. One person dropped down to second page. So we're gonna look at that second page drop down over here. Okay, so this is the web page that got a boost. It's a niche website. They're not selling stuff. They're still affiliate website, right? And they write about best hunting boots, and they keep writing about best hunting boots. So now let's look at this, right? Okay, the shells.com, right? Like, and similarly, they are also an affiliate website, and their rankings have dropped, right? Now, why did this really happen, right? So we can look at this link. Here is the page that dropped in ranking, right? So we're looking at this, and you see, okay, you like some of these images are like totally taken from wherever they could. Then they have used keywords. Well, their paragraphs, it just looks chunky. It's not formatted properly. It doesn't provide much information. It doesn't show first-hand experience. It sure talks about in the second language, but there's no first language mix, right? Like I cannot tell that this person had experience. There's no person attached to this. I don't know who wrote it, right? Like I don't know if this person is trustworthy or whoever wrote it is trustworthy. So now let's see who got the boost. All right, structure. We go structure, and I am sorry if you guys hear some noise here. Let me see if my microphone is on, but there is a lawnmower, and they have the greatest timing. Hopefully everybody can still hear me properly. So we're looking at this content, right? And they're also an affiliate website, and keep going, keep going. You'll see structure follow again and again. The depth of information is way more than the page that dropped, right? Now, some of the other pages which are ranking behind this have similar structure, and they also have decent content, but this one is like stood apart, and I will now show you why. Okay, so let's look at this, and I have a few questions. So all right. I will answer those questions right after the webinar. All right. So let's look at some unique concepts, right? And this page has for more detailed specs and technical information, read our contributors' full review of Crisp Nevada GTM. So one thing that they've said that, hey, we just don't write about this. but since we're talking about this product, you may find something which is more useful on the other pages, right? None of the other none of the other web pages are using this sort of language to connect information to a deeper note. Let's look at this. Then Ruber comes in insulated and uninsulated versions, and we tested the uninsulated boot, right? What does it tell you? It tells you that we've tested this boots, right? And how we tested them is also written right underneath that. What does that tell you? First-hand experience, right? Look at this example of chart that you can find on this page. And while other people have also used table, it's not as informative as this, right? Like it's just a list of products, their pricing, and where you can get them, right? But look at this. It's weight, insulated, and the information related to the insulated column, right? Like the depth of it, it's so much that you could have only known about this if you had gone and studied this product, right? Like you went and got this information again and again, right? Like, trust me, no amount of AI is going to produce this accurately, even if you just throw all the data in it, right? Like there's tons and tons of editing and the brain crunching went behind building something like this. And finally, let's look at this. Testing boots and gator in some of the nastiest mud we have ever experienced during a pack-in elk hunt in Colorado flat tops, right? So when they find something, they didn't have experience with all the boots, but this boot, they had experience, they wore it, and then they went to this nastiest mud area, right? And they have a picture of it. And this picture is unique. You will not find this in this webpage. Impossible, right? Like you can see here, it's neither an e-commerce page or neither an affiliate page. Okay, all right. So this tells us, right? Like, are you doing some of these things in your content? And I would love to understand if you guys are, and you've still seen the drop in the ranking, right? Chances are that you're missing out on some of these things. And you've lost a few positions because of this, because people are finding information easily more connectable and better at some other places. So this shows experience. This really shows that you know what you're talking about, and why should they trust you, right? And let's even look at some of the things right here that they've done here. Look at a section here. It's right up front. This gives a great signal to Google or anybody actually reading the page that why should they trust you when you're writing about this user reviews, right? Like, why can they rely on a person that they've just never heard of? It's the first time that they're coming to this page and reading about it. So super important. Okay. And then there's website. So this is something that I've seen people repeatedly ignoring. In every cycle when Google comes up with new rankings, right? Like people most often blame either their faulty backlinks or their content, but are still not looking at the websites and niche websites in particular, because they have like 1,000 things going on, right? Like your niche is like your hobby, and you often miss out on some of these things. So fix bugs in console. It's Search Console, like it's super important now, and like our website experienced was in much better shape in a week and a half by fixing some of these bugs, right? So this is coming from first-hand experience. Fixing some of the bugs in console, even though they might not seem huge, will greatly impact your rankings. Implement schema on new pages and old ones, right? Like I said, right, like making it easier for Google to find information about you. And schema is the best way to showcase this. So we were not doing schema like throughout all the web pages, just like it's time-consuming process, and you only have a limited amount of capabilities, right? But if you're building niche websites and you have a little bit of time, right, like start doing it on the new pages and the old pages. Build FAQ schemas, right? Like have author info in your schema, have your business info in schema, right? Like make sure that you're following all of this guideline. And some of these parts can be automated as well, right? With some of the great plugins. So I would strongly suggest that you do something like this and keep improving user experience on your best pages. I'm not saying like all the pages, right? Like if you have an insane amount of pages, where do you start, right? Like, so your best pages, pages which are performing better or were performing better, really great, and have dropped in rankings, right? Minded, right? Like if you're in top three, you could be seeing some, uh, and while you are not, right? Like you could be like totally gone. So it really depends on that. So improving user experience for your best pages, slowly, gradually, right? Like build up the momentum and do it as you keep improving your website. So why I'm telling you to keep improving your website is, if you see there's a line in the guidelines, right? And it stuck to me, right? Like it's mentioned twice. The extent to which the user went, the extent to which the user had, spend time in building out that web page, or content, or the getting the research done, right? Like all of these counts. So if you are spending time maintaining your websites and solving these issues proactively, it's obviously a very good signal for Google that tells them that, hey, this is still legitimate. They're doing work on it. They're improving it, versus some other counterparts who might not be improving their websites at all, right? Like, so who do they give more weightage to? Someone who's constantly working on their website and improving it, or someone who's just been sitting around for a very long time, not updated their content, not updated their website. Some of the links might not work and things like that, right? Like, so you need to tackle this situation proactively, and as in when they arise, right? Like, and not have it pile up. But if they have, it's still not great. Like, go ahead and solve this issue that you see in Search Console, right? Like, go to the page experience, go and see all of these things. Most of these things can be solved by simple changes in your robot.txt file, right? And you'll find plenty of literature on that online. But go ahead and do that. Make sure that you're crawled and discovered, right? Like you're focusing on that, right? Like you have many websites, more pages, sorry, not website, but more pages as discovered and not indexed than the pages. You're doing something really wrong, right? Like you either have a crazy amount of velocity and it's not possible to produce great content with crazy amount of velocity, right? Like, so everybody knows that, unless you have 100,000 to throw every month, right? Like that's not going to be the case. So you have to gradually improve this, and don't do anything that would suggest that you are not reputable, right? Like, and all of these are the signs. So you want to start and reduce getting this under control as fast as possible. Here I've shown an example of how you'd add the author type, right? Like to the list for some recipes, there is a specific schema that you must follow. And I would strongly suggest, right, like for your niche, go and do some research, figure out what parameters you need for schema, and you do this. And someone just recent, Kevin asked, what schema plugins do you use, right? Like, so we used to use rank math, but now we have our own custom plugin that lets us do some of these things without having to manually do pretty much any of it. So we've just implemented that across our site. So some of these pages are still building, but rank math to start with. If you don't have crazy amount of velocity, or a layered organization where someone else is doing it, or any of those things, right? Then I mean, some of these plugins would work. Yoast would work as well, right? Like they're all pretty much similar. Some have more features than others. Some are more stringent in terms of the licensing than the others, but Yoast is decent as well as rank math. You could use anyone, right? That's fine. Just check out the speed issues if your website is optimized. And we've seen some people face issues with speed after installing one or the other plugins, right? So you want to make sure that you're not using many plugins that do the same thing, right? Which has also happened with many people. They'll install rank math, they'll install Yoast, and they'll install a thousand other things, hoping that they'll score their content and do these things better. And no, just stick to one and do as best as you can over there. It should be totally fine. Okay, and the last part, which becomes very difficult if you don't have a legitimate business, or you are not doing things that sort of follows great Google guidelines. And that's backlinks. Nobody's going to want to link to you. unless those are PBN sites, right? You're doing quick tricks, you'll start seeing ranking improve and then drop from the sky. And we've seen all of that, right? So there are obviously some SEOs with the expertise in black hat would disagree on some of the things, right? But it catches up. And when you're doing backlinks, if you're doing everything correctly, then people would want to link to you. So start even if you're like focusing on your money terms, and your content calendar is full of some informative and some money making terms that you're going after, build a separate campaign or build a separate list of keywords that you might want to go after that would be topics that people want to link to you. And there's a great guide by Brian Dean that you can look at, like how to write topics that people naturally want to link, right? And it's not usually what we're talking about, pillar pages and things like that. Yes, sure, if pillar pages rank, they'll attract backlinks and things like that. But then there are other types of topics that are targeted to attract backlinks that you can write as well. And many of these are very easy to rank as well. You'll start seeing some backlinks like throughout. As they start ranking, you'll start seeing some backlinks come in, consistently to those pages. So you can even try that. Uh, Basic acquiring of quality directory listings, it's still very important, right? Like that signals a great deal of trust. When many of these directory listings, you have your business information listed over there and it's connecting back to your website, right? Think brand for every niche website as well, right? Like just don't think like it's the website. I'm doing it, I'm gonna flip it. But even if you're gonna flip it, that's fine. Do it later. But like you don't have to just show that in the quality of the website that's gone out there. So branding is everything. Try to build authority in areas and build a brand around it. That will greatly help signal the right kind of indications to your website. And it's also very easy for people to link to when they are able to trust you. Invest in outreach. This is the last thing, right? Like so many niche websites might not have the budget. Many enterprises or companies have the budget for outreach and it's not that costly. You should invest in some sort of outreach, right? If you're writing great content, why not tell the world about it? So outreach is a great way without having to pay tons and tons of money to get niche edit website links or the scrappy, PBN links, and don't ever go to Fiverr. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for here, and that's the whole part about it. So when you think about content and where outranking fits in, right? Some of the things is here, and I have been reinforcing the thought of uh, unique entities, or now we call it originality in your content, right? Like unique amount of information on your web page is one way of quantifying whether your content has the same amount of information that everyone else has, but does it have more? That's one way. And oftentimes when you write information that shows your experience, that is all unique, because not most people wouldn't have repeated those experiences on their webpage. Then it's not your experience, right? So in process of writing this unique information, you should really try to include information that would elevate the user experience, right? Whether you can mention real things that people have gone through, even if you have not used this particular type of boot, you reviewed 3 or 4, and the 3 or 4 you did not review it, but you looked at it, right? You researched on it and you studied the reviews of the users. Might as well include a screenshot showing with a reference, right? That hey, one of these users said something like this, and this is what ticked me off. Maybe or someone said something like this, and that's why I decided to give it a shot. Things like that. Like there's always this little things that you can do, and in the next release, right? Like we'll give you ideas around this as well. In each of the sections that kind of tell you where you can improve and add some of this personal experiences or gather research to add these experiences. This is great. We have about 10 minutes now, so I will start taking some questions. Okay, so let's go to Victor. Is there a qualitative analysis to audit, analyze E.E.A.T? Only if there was, only if all the parameters were readily available, right? And this is where many of the things that we're noticing and we're doing is based on really going in and looking at some of the search queries and understanding what really happened before and after the update, right? And that's one way of looking at it. But it's qualitative analysis. I'm not sure if there is anything like this done by E.E.A.T, but maybe Google is doing this internally with their quality content raters, right? They have 16,000 raters that once they publish the content that goes live, once they publish an algorithm that goes live for a certain very small amount of people, this quality raters go and qualify the content, right? And tell them whether the update worked, whether they're seeing better results than they were seeing before, and things of that nature. So they're doing that analysis there. But as such, we don't have the parameters to even do the baseline of qualitative, right? Like, and even if you do qualitative, it's not going to be quantifiable, I guess. E.A.T in black box from Google is a black box from Google, or is there a patent research paper for this? So Google laid out this guidelines, and happy to drop a link in here in just a second to the guideline that they have. So read to the guidelines, right? Like, so there's no patent research paper. Like I like Google might have it and they might have filed it, not that they've told anybody. And it's not a black box from Google. It's basically what I said is it's trust signals built by Google that kind of quantify your expertise, experience, and authoritativeness in a particular domain. Domain as an industry or term or whatever your website is writing about. Can Google rank my weight loss related health blog if I use low hanging keywords, or I am not an expert enough to trust me? Well, what I'm suggesting is that you might have like, so okay, here it is. Can Google rank my weight loss related health blog? Okay, I'm going to show you a very specific example here. Okay. Fast weight loss plan. Okay, this is just an example, right? Like, and this is a very super crowded niche, right? So can you do some of these things? If you can, then it can rank your, no matter how low hanging fruit you target or not. But it's totally fine. You can go after it if you have some sort of expertise in it, right? Like, so let's go down, all the way down. Okay, who is it written by? And there's not much information about her. MSRD, contact, there is just an email address, but that's about it, right? Let's look at the second one. Yeah, look at this, right? Dietitian experience. Let's look at this. Registered dietitian and association editor, so reviewed by, right? Like, so you have, and I'm pretty sure they must have all of these things in their schema as well. They have the author, and they have a reviewed author, right? The amount of expertise and experience goes behind suggesting a simple 30-day summer meal plan for weight loss cannot be just by anybody, right? Like, if you are doing something like this and you don't have expertise in it, even if you are able to rank tomorrow, you're not going to rank the day after. It's a saying, right? Like, not literally, but you can see why should the user trust this particular content. Now, off the back, you know what? I'm going to look at this content and I know that this is legit. If you can show this, then go after any keyword. It doesn't have to be low hanging. You can go after hard hanging. Doesn't matter. Whatever it is, you can go after it. Imagine there's still authority factor that you have to look at, right? Like, some of these articles might have like a gazillion backlinks, right? You have it. If you don't, then you can go after some of these low hanging keywords and rank for it, provided you have this authority. But if you don't, then guess what? Google is more than happy to show things which is a little closely related, not exactly related, than the ones that you have, which is exactly related. So trust signals are more and more prominent from some of these use cases. So consider this, right? Like, I don't know the situation you are in, but uh, trusted could also mean that, yeah, like, so, who would be a better trusted person than dietitian, right? At least you are a dietitian or not, right? Like, or you have something else, some other thing that supports why should the user trust you, right? Like, that's one thing. There are many other factors that play into it, right? Like the quality of your content, the amount of backlinks, right? Like your site structure, blah blah, blah, your authority, paid authority, so many things, right? So think about that. But yeah, from this perspective, this is coming from a super expert. Do you know a good way to be able to update multiple blogs from one dashboard? Yes. I know. Outranking is going to offer that in the next release. You should be able to publish your blogs from Outranking itself. So update, publish, do whatever you want with Outranking. But I'm not sure if there is any platform that connects to different types of CMSs and maybe helps you publish. Maybe you'd have to look at something custom with Zapier, but uh, I'm guessing there should be something like this out there. And wow, I just noted that there were more than 40 participants at a time. So Content Studio, um, they say like update multiple blogs. I'm not sure. I've not tried Content Studio, but could be. Yeah, there should be some solution that lets you do that, right? Or maybe a more specific question, update multiple blogs from one dashboard to one website, right? But you still have to go ahead and write all of these blogs and then go one by one and publish it, right? So maybe there is a better UI to just go click publish, but I'm not sure. um okay, all right, we have about just 4 minutes out. Well, this was a very great session, some very good questions. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to drop it in. If you haven't already registered to our upcoming webinar this Tuesday, you must register for it. It is going to be really awesome. And some of you are going to again complain that we changed things a little bit, but we're trying to create better user experience and making things a lot more easier while giving you the tools. So I'm super excited about this one. It comes with tons of optimization capabilities and it's yeah, super improved first draft capabilities and some really crazy things in internal linking. So I'm super excited to share this on Tuesday. Register this, and Sapan just shared the link. Case study for a new website. So we have case study on our website, and Sapan can drop the link over there. Link over here. I can drop the link. One of the websites of one of the clients has been less than a year, but there are tons of people in the group that can give you some information about this as well. So Outranking case study. I'm just going to copy this and drop it in for you. Check it out. All right. Super. We're at the end of the session. If no last questions, have a wonderful weekend, guys, and we'll see you next week. If you haven't registered, register today. All right. See you guys.